Hello, friends, and welcome to your Daily Detroit, sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. I am Jer Stays, and today, for Thursday, August 24th, 2023, some are changing the slogan of Detroit from the Motor City to the Comeback City. One of those stories is the Jewish community that is coming back to the city of Detroit and investing in strong roots. Our feature conversation is about the rehabilitation of the Isaac Agree Synagogue, a center of Jewish life in Detroit. Joining me will be Rabbi Ariana Silverman and Executive Director Rachel Rudman. Then I'll share some stories you should know around town and send you on your way. By the way, thanks to Stephanie, Jeffrey, and others for your support as of late, both as members, patreon.com/dailydetroit or buymeacoffee.com/dailydetroit. It is listener and underwriter support that keeps this thing going, so thank you very much, and I encourage others to sign up too. Let's hop into today's conversation. Rabbi Ariana Silverman, welcome to Daily Detroit.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
And Executive Director Rachel Rudman, welcome as well.
Thank you. Yeah, glad to be here.
For sure. Now, I have noticed construction over the last few months and longer at the corner there, right kind of like at the end of Capitol Park, if you will. It's a beautiful building. Why don't we set the table for those who don't know a little bit of the history of this synagogue so that people know what's going into it before we talk about what's happened now in the future?
The Isaac Agree Downtown Synagogue was founded in 1921 on the North End. We've always been in Detroit, and we've been in Capitol Park since the 40s, and we bought our building, the one that you're mentioning there at Griswold and Clifford, in 1964. It's got those beautiful, iconic stained glass windows. You might recognize those when you drive by, and that's been our home since the 60s.
Wow. Yeah, and it's something that I know that there's been a lot of pride in keeping an active synagogue in Detroit, right?
Absolutely. It's a reflection of our values that we have always been committed to the city of Detroit, to working with our neighbors and our partners and making this our home. So we have been in the city since the beginning.
Yeah, and it's 100 years now, a $5.75 million renovation project. How did this come together?
So it's been about 15 years in the making, actually. The community started to grow again at around 2008 or so, as more and more people were moving into the city of Detroit and wanted to make sure that the synagogue could last. And since then, the community has grown steadily, and with it, the understanding that we need to change our building to fit the needs of our growing and changing community. And so starting about 15 years ago, we were thinking about what would it look like to completely renovate the building. So thanks to the incredible work of lay leaders over the last 15 years, and recently the tremendous staff I have the privilege of working with, we've been able to raise the money to do this renovation and are so thrilled, thank God, we will be moving back into our building this weekend.
That is very exciting news. I imagine as executive director, you've had a lot of pieces and parts to put together, Rachel.
Yeah, it's been a really exciting project. And I only came on staff about less than 2 years ago. So a lot of the money had been fundraised. Thank you to our donors for their support. And I came on just as we were kind of transitioning into the construction phase. I've learned a lot about construction. Never knew I'd be in on that, but it's been super interesting. And yeah, our community's been, out of our space now for a couple of years, because right before we were starting construction, we were out of our space for COVID. So it's an especially exciting time because it's actually been a couple years since our community has been together to worship or spend time together in our building.
What are some of the features that are going to be part of this? I know that, of course, there's the synagogue, but you're also putting your arms around a number of other things, right?
Yes, our building previously, we were using just the first and second floor of it. The first floor was sort of our social hall, community gathering space, and our second floor is our worship space, our sanctuary. And before the renovation, the third and fourth floor were condemned. We weren't insured for them. We couldn't use them at all. So with this renovation, we're really doubling our usable footprint of the building. The first floor will remain a community space. We have a community hub there. During the work week, that space will be used by staff on our side and also staff of other organizations. We are creating a Jewish co-working space at Downtown Synagogue, and we're actually starting with 7 Jewish nonprofits, most of whom are in the suburbs, and they're coming down to have a presence and a physical presence and impact in the city of Detroit. So their staff will be able to use that space to work together, share resources, collaborate. We're going for this cross-pollination of ideas among these organizations. So they'll be able to work there during the work week. And then on Shabbat, of course, our community will come together to share meals and have prayer there also. Second floor, sanctuary. We built a children's space in our second floor, the third floor, which is dedicated space for the co-working partners, for our shared workspace partners up there. We have desks, we have conference rooms, we have some staff offices. And then our fourth floor is our largest, most flexible program space. So if a family wants to have a celebration, or if an organization wants to have a large board meeting or a program, that space will be open for them. And we're excited that these spaces are all fitted with proper AV technology so that organizations can have what they need in the building, and excited for this building to really be a resource, not just for the downtown synagogue community, but for the wider Metro Detroit Jewish community and nonprofit community in the city of Detroit in general.
Yeah, and there's so many amenities in nearby Capitol Park. You're right next to Washington Boulevard. You're right next to Woodward. It's really in a great location. And one of the things that I think adds to it too is that, those kind of mid-rise buildings that are, 4 stories or whatever, you get some really cool city-style views, if you know what I mean. I mean, it's not like the super skyscraper view, but you're in the heart of the city at every turn you make.
Absolutely. And one of the things we're really excited about is our next fundraising push is going to be able to develop the roof deck on our roof, because it has a gorgeous view of the city. And we hope that will be a venue for life cycle events and for parties and for just looking at the tremendous beauty of the city of Detroit. So that's what's coming next. But we're also really excited about all of the windows in our building that will allow us to see the city now. One of the major pieces of the renovation was tearing out the brick wall on our first floor and replacing it with glass, so that we are engaging with the city and the city can be engaging with us. It is actually a Jewish requirement that a synagogue have windows for that reason, that we, as we are turning inward in our prayer, are also turning outward in terms of our engagement with the larger community.
And that's a beautiful thing. And I love seeing the number of street level windows that are really happening in the city now. I remember 10, 15 years ago, that wasn't as much of a thing. And to see that progression is absolutely excellent. Now, Rachel mentioned about the childcare bit, and Rabbi, could you talk about it a little bit?
Absolutely. I'd be delighted. One of the things that's exciting for me is that our building is really reflecting our values in a much deeper way. One of the centerpieces of the renovation, so to speak, is our new elevator that will make the building accessible to everyone. It also is reflecting our commitments to environmental sustainability with our new HVAC systems. It also is reflecting our desire to express our diversity as we look at our iconic stained glass windows and the multiplicity of identities that they represent, that we're proud of in our community. And we're recognizing a changing demographic in our congregation is age. We, about 10 years ago, had about 10 kids in our congregation, and now 10 years later, we have over 120. It has been tremendous growth, and it's really exciting to have their young voices and their feet running around in our space. And so part of what we did is create a space that's specifically for them on the floor with our sanctuary, and set it up so that there's a view of where the service is happening for those kiddos, and that the people leading the service will also be able to see them. So they'll have books they can read and toys they can play with and trains they can push around, and also feel like they're part of the community with everyone else. So our community is now much better equipped to serve people from age 0 to literally age 93.
Wow. And for a lot of people, kids and such is a sign of hope for the future,
Absolutely. It's a sign of the future for me. I think it also demonstrates the commitment of our community to staying in the city of Detroit and raising families in the city of Detroit. This is where our kids are being born and raised, and this is going to be their spiritual and communal home as well.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because I think something that might surprise people is just how much the Jewish community is really, growing in the city of Detroit and finding spiritual and actual community home there. What have you noticed in your time as rabbi of these changes, and kind of what's ignited this?
I think it's a few different things. I think I am not a native Detroiter. I moved here in 2010, so I've seen a tremendous amount of change in the last 13 years, but don't know as much about the period before then, except to say that I think that people who are in their 20s and 30s, who are in the stage of life where they are looking for jobs, beginning their careers, thinking about starting a family, and wanted to be in an urban center, were going to places like Chicago or to New York or to DC or Boston or any of the other options for young people in our country. And now many of them, people who grew up in the city of Detroit, are recognizing they can have that same exciting urban engagement career and family life here in the city of Detroit. And so they're choosing to do so. And one of the foci of our community is making sure that we can show them that this is an absolutely wonderful place to work, to live, to pray, and to raise a family.
And Rachel, what drew you to come on board?
I came on the project when the Reimagining the Downtown Synagogue capital campaign, comprehensive campaign project was already underway. And like one of the funders, I read the description, I looked through the information, I saw the videos, and I was just so blown away by the vision that the lay leaders and staff and the people who worked on this project had put together. It just seemed so smart to me. It seemed like a really forward-looking way for a synagogue to both acknowledge its strengths and its areas for growth, and to envision what a future for a synagogue could look like, especially in an urban area with this amazing location and with a young and growing community. If I hadn't been involved on a staff level, I would have been involved as just a person in the community. I felt inspired by the vision that came together on this project. And honestly, I still feel that way each day. Like anyone on the nonprofit staff, I get caught in the details. But each day, when I'm able to look up, I'm still really impressed by what the lay leaders and Rabbi Silverman have been able to put together. And I love working with the people that I do.
It's a really heartwarming story to hear. And I'm so glad to see this progress. If people want to know more and follow along with what you're doing, what can they do?
Well, we'd love to invite you to our grand reopening, which is this Sunday, August 27th from 11 to 2 on Griswold. We'll be having a block party on Griswold between Clifford and Grand River. Otherwise, check out our website. We have programs and services weekly. We're going to be having drop-in hours weekly moving forward. Our website is downtownsynagogue.org, and you should follow us on Instagram, Downtown Synagogue.
Awesome. Rabbi Ariana Silverman and Rachel Rudman, the executive director, thank you so much for your time on Daily Detroit. I really appreciate you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Let's talk about 3 things to know around town. After 3 inches of rain in 5 hours, certain areas of town are still underwater, including parts of Canton, Macomb County, and crucially, Detroit Metro Airport and Romulus. Parts of that are flooded. As of this recording, air traffic continues to be slow after a full ground stop in response to flooding in the tunnel that leads to McNamara Terminal. Flooding looks to have impacted other areas of the facility as well. Ramps to and from I-94 and the airport were closed. A number of passengers were spotted walking to get to their cars far away, and I saw video of people walking through the flooded tunnel. Additionally, I-275 remains closed in both directions at I-94 as it won't be able to drain until the nearby creek lowers its level, says the Michigan Department of Transportation. And there's more rain in the forecast for Thursday night, so please stay safe out there. I think we're going to need to do a podcast unpacking specifically why some of these key infrastructure points flooded out. The airport is a pretty big deal. Staying in western Wayne County, construction has started on a $10 million pilot project in Belleville to create the nation's first connected and automated, or CAV or CAV lane. A 3-mile segment of westbound I-94 will be equipped with digital infrastructure and an underground electrical conduit for CAV use. The project is a partnership between the Michigan Department of Transportation and technology firm Cavnew. The first phase of work means for drivers a continuous left lane closure until late November. Eventually, the project goal is to create a route between Detroit and Ann Arbor that's connected for autonomous vehicles, transit, freight, your own car, and, well, a lot more. Now, I can't let you go without something fun to do. This weekend in the city of Detroit, the North Cass Neighborhood Summer Sidewalk Sale, Saturday, August 26th from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. There's 30 favorite North Cass Midtown businesses, all hosting big sidewalk sales, pop-ups, activations, and live music. So, 20 musical acts and live DJs, including the Detroit Party Marching Band, which if you've never seen them, they're super cool. Go check it out. Like, really, it's a special thing. There's a bunch of others, too. Now, if you're into food, there's something like 10 standalone food trucks and pop-ups, including Folk, Milk and Froth. By the way, a traffic jam and snug return via a pop-up merchant booth. There's a lot more. Look, I'm just giving you the highlights. You can learn a lot more at citybirddetroit.com/events. That's citybirddetroit.com/events. So go enjoy Detroit, you hear? That is it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Jer Stays. Remember that you are somebody, and I'll see you around town.